2 years had passed since Ambassador Daeho Kim walked out of the Galactic Council chamber. Now he was returning to Nexus Prime, but everything had changed. The massive space station that had once been the jewel of galactic civilization was running on emergency power. Half the docking bays were sealed because the atmospheric systems had failed. Only 12 species still maintained representatives here. President Mi Kyung-song sat in her office on New Terra, watching the diplomatic shuttle carry Ambassador Daeho toward his final meeting with what remained of the council. Through her window, she could see the orbital shipyards where human vessels were being built using technologies that would have seemed like magic 2 years ago. "Are you certain this is the right approach?" she asked the hologram of Admiral Boram Lee, who was commanding the human fleet stationed just outside the Nexus Prime system. "The Council needs to understand the new reality," Boram replied. "They can choose to accept it and work with us, or they can continue fighting among themselves until their civilization collapses completely." The reports coming from Council space painted a picture of total breakdown. The hive mind species had fought a civil war that left millions dead. 3 agricultural worlds had been abandoned when their terraforming systems completely failed. The Ironclaw clan was raiding civilian shipping because their military could no longer afford fuel for their ships. But the worst part was the isolation. Species that had worked together for centuries now viewed each other with suspicion and fear. Without humans to serve as neutral mediators, every trade dispute became a potential war. Every territorial disagreement escalated into violence. The galaxy that had once been connected by networks of cooperation and mutual benefit had fractured into dozens of hostile camps. Elder Thais waited alone in the council chamber as Ambassador Daeho entered. The ancient crystalline being looked smaller than before, her normally bright surface dulled with age and stress. Only a few other representatives sat in the vast chamber that had once held delegates from 47 species. "Ambassador Kim," Elder Thess said, her voice still carrying the sound of wind chimes but now with a note of sadness. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting." "Elder Thess," Daeho replied formally. "I understand you have a proposal for us." "I have an apology," she said quietly. "The council was wrong. We allowed fear and pride to guide our decisions instead of wisdom. We treated humanity as a threat when you were actually our greatest hope for a peaceful galaxy." Daeho sat down in the same chair he had occupied 2 years ago. "What changed? Your mind?" "Reality," Elder Thais replied bitterly. "We thought we could maintain our civilization without human involvement. We believed that other species could fill the roles that humans had played. We were wrong about everything." She gestured to the empty seats around them. 35 species have withdrawn from the council in the past 6 months. Some are fighting wars with their neighbors. Others have retreated to their home systems and refuse all contact with outsiders. The galaxy is more divided now than it has been in 1,000 years. "And you want humanity to fix this?" Daeho said. "It was not a question. We want to discuss terms for renewed cooperation," Elder Thys corrected. "But we understand that things cannot go back to the way they were before." Daeho activated a small device that projected President Song's message for the council. Her voice filled the chamber as she spoke directly to the alien leaders who had demanded humanity's submission 2 years ago. "Elder Thais and remaining council members," President Song's recorded voice said, "humanity has carefully considered your request for renewed diplomatic relations. We are prepared to resume limited cooperation, but only under conditions that reflect the new reality of galactic politics." The terms were simple but non-negotiable. Humanity would not rejoin the Galactic Council. Instead, humans would work directly with individual species that demonstrated respect for other cultures' right to self-determination. Technology sharing would be voluntary and based on mutual benefit, not council mandates. Most importantly, no galactic government would ever again have authority over human worlds or human decisions. "These terms are quite different from our previous arrangements," Elder Thys observed. "Yes," Daeho agreed. "The previous arrangements led to the current crisis. Humanity will not make that mistake again. And if some species refuse to accept these conditions, then they will continue to manage their affairs without human involvement. Deho replied calmly. We have learned that we cannot force cooperation on those who prefer conflict. Through the station's windows, Elder Thias could see the human fleet that had escorted Ambassador Deho to this meeting. The ships were unlike anything the Council had seen before. They moved through space with impossible grace, their hulls seeming to shift and change as they redirected energy between different systems. Advanced artificial intelligence managed every aspect of their operation, allowing them to coordinate as a single organism. Your military capabilities have advanced considerably during your time away, Elder Thias noted. Our entire civilization has advanced, Deho corrected. When the Council restricted our research and limited our exploration, you prevented us from reaching our full potential. Now we are free to pursue knowledge and development without artificial limitations. The truth was that humanity had undergone a transformation during their isolation. Free from Council restrictions on artificial intelligence, genetic research, and advanced physics, human scientists had made breakthroughs that seemed impossible just 2 years ago. They had developed technologies that could terraform entire planets in months instead of decades. They had created medical treatments that could extend life and eliminate diseases that had plagued the galaxy for millennia. Most importantly, they had learned to work with artificial intelligence as partners rather than tools. What about the species that supported your expulsion from the Council? Elder Thias asked. Vextar and his allies still believe that humanity should be controlled rather than cooperated with. Vextar is no longer our concern, Deho replied. His species chose isolation over cooperation. They are welcome to enjoy the benefits of their independence. In fact, the Saurian Empire led by Vextar was in complete collapse. Without human technology to maintain their infrastructure and human mediation to resolve their internal disputes, the proud reptilian species had fractured into dozens of competing factions. Their once mighty fleets now spent more time fighting each other than protecting their territory from external threats. There is one more thing, Elder Thias said hesitantly. Some Council members have suggested that humanity's departure was planned from the beginning. They believe you wanted to create this crisis to force us to accept your terms. Deho considered the question carefully. Elder Thias, did humanity plan for the possibility that the Council might try to control us? Yes. Did we prepare for the consequences of leaving galactic civilization? Yes. Did we want this crisis to happen? No. He gestured to the empty chamber around them. Humanity gained nothing from watching the galaxy tear itself apart. We would have preferred to continue working together as equals. But when the Council demanded submission instead of cooperation, we chose freedom over comfort. And now we offer the galaxy a choice. Species that want to work with humanity as partners are welcome to do so. Those that prefer the old system of hierarchical control are free to continue without us. Admiral Boram's fleet took position around Nexus Prime as the diplomatic meeting concluded. The human ships did not threaten the station, but their presence sent a clear message. Humanity was no longer the junior partner in galactic affairs. They had become a force that demanded respect rather than requesting permission. As Ambassador Deho's shuttle departed from Nexus Prime, Elder Thias watched the human fleet disappear into hyperspace. She knew that this moment marked the end of one era and the beginning of another. The old Galactic Council, which had tried to maintain order through control and restriction, was finished. What would replace it remained to be seen. 6 months later, the first ships arrived at New Terra carrying delegates from species that had accepted humanity's terms. The Gentle Ones came seeking medical cooperation to help refugees from the failed agricultural worlds. The Crystal Singers requested cultural exchange programs that would allow them to learn human artistic techniques. Even some moderate factions from the former Council species sent representatives to explore new partnerships. President Mi Kyung-song welcomed each delegation personally. The agreements they negotiated were based on mutual respect and voluntary cooperation, rather than hierarchical authority. Each species maintained full control over their internal affairs, while benefiting from shared technology and knowledge. But not all species chose cooperation. Vexitar's Saurian Empire continued to fragment as different factions fought for control. The Ironclaw clan raided civilian shipping routes, becoming little more than organized pirates. Several warrior cultures retreated to their home systems and refused all outside contact. Humanity did not try to force these species to change their minds. Instead, human patrols quietly protected the shipping routes used by cooperative species, while avoiding any contact with hostile factions. 6 months had passed since the last human ship left Council space. Trade Minister Hyojin Park sat in her office on New Seoul, watching reports flood in from across the galaxy. Her computer screen showed a steady stream of data that would have worried anyone who understood what they were looking at. The first few weeks after humanity's departure had been exactly what the Council expected. Alien species quickly moved to take over abandoned human trade routes. The Merchant Guild sent ships to claim human trading posts. The Ironclaw clan seized human mining operations on the Outer Rim. Even the normally peaceful Crystal Singers sent vessels to explore human agricultural worlds. It was like watching children fight over toys, Hyojin said to her assistant, a young woman named Soo-jin, who had been tracking alien communications for the past month. The initial reports from Council space were quite positive, Soo-jin replied, pulling up files on her tablet. Vextar gave 3 speeches about how the galaxy was finally free from human interference. Trade Minister Kolwan claimed that established trading houses would bring order to the chaos humans had created. Hyojin smiled grimly. And now? Now they are discovering what humans actually did for them. The first problems had been small. Maintenance issues on space stations that had been running perfectly for decades. Communication delays on the quantum network that connected thousands of worlds. Ships arriving late because navigation computers were giving incorrect readings for hyperspace jumps. Dr. Tae-sung Choi knocked on the office door and entered without waiting for permission. His usually neat appearance was disheveled and his eyes were bright with excitement. Hyojin, you need to see this. He activated the wall display and showed a map of Council space. Red dots marked systems experiencing significant problems. Yellow dots showed minor issues. Green dots indicated everything was working normally. There were very few green dots. The medical fabricators on 12 major worlds have stopped working, Tae-sung explained. These machines created medicines and medical supplies for hundreds of species. Without them, hospitals are running out of critical treatments. How long before they fix the machines? Soo-jin asked. Tae-sung laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. They cannot fix them. Humans designed those fabricators using principles that most alien species never bothered to learn. They just used the machines and assumed they would work forever. Hyojin stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see human ships in the orbital shipyards around New Seoul. But these were not the simple cargo vessels and passenger transports that had carried humans throughout Council space for decades. These ships were larger, sleeker, and built with technology that the Council had never seen. What is the status of Project Lighthouse? She asked. Ahead of schedule, Tae-sung replied. Commander Subin Yoon reports that all primary installations are complete. The secondary network will be finished within 2 months. Soo-jin looked confused. Project Lighthouse? I have not seen any reports about this. You would not have, Hyojin said. It is classified at the highest levels. But you will know soon. Enough. On her desk, a communication device chimed softly. The message was short and came through encrypted channels that only a few dozen humans had access to. It was from Captain Jin Woo-han, commanding a ship that officially did not exist. Another merchant convoy was attacked by pirates yesterday, she told the others. The Vrexty Trade Alliance lost 6 ships carrying rare metals. The response fleet arrived 2 days after the attack was over. How long did human patrols take to respond to pirate attacks? Soo-jin asked. Usually 4 to 6 hours, Tae-sung replied. Human ships were faster and had better sensors. More importantly, humans actually cared about protecting other species from pirates. The truth was that humans had been far more important to galactic civilization than anyone realized. For 80 years, human engineers had quietly improved alien technology. Human doctors had developed treatments for diseases that affected multiple species. Human farmers had created agricultural techniques that allowed barren worlds to grow food. Human teachers had shared knowledge that helped younger species advance faster than anyone thought possible. But most importantly, humans had served as translators between species that would never have learned to cooperate otherwise. Look at this report from the hive mind species, Sujin said, reading from her tablet. They are fighting among themselves for the first time in their recorded history. 3 different queens are claiming authority over the same colony worlds. Humans mediated their disputes, Hyojin explained. When different parts of the hive mind disagreed, they would ask humans to help them find solutions. Humans were the only species that could understand both individual thinking and group consciousness. Dr. Tae-sung pulled up another file. The gentle ones are requesting emergency medical assistance. Their healing abilities work well on their own species, but they relied on human medical technology to treat other aliens. Without human support, they cannot help the refugees from the mining world disasters. Are we going to help them? Sujin asked. No, Hyojin said firmly. The council made their choice. They wanted independence from human influence. They can have it. Her communication device chimed again. This message was from intelligence sources that the council did not know existed. Human agents had been quietly gathering information about every species, every government, and every military force in council space for decades. Not to spy on them, but to better understand how to help them. The Ironclaw clan is mobilizing their war fleets, she announced. They are blaming the Merchant Guild for the economic problems. Apparently 3 different species are claiming the same mining rights that humans used to manage. Will there be war? Sujin asked nervously. Almost certainly, Tae-sung replied. Without humans to negotiate between them, these species have no way to resolve their disputes peacefully. They never learned how to compromise because humans always helped them find solutions that made everyone happy. The irony was not lost on any of them. The council had accused humans of being too aggressive, too unpredictable, too dangerous. In reality, humans had been the peacekeepers. They had been the ones working day and night to prevent exactly the kind of chaos that was now spreading across the galaxy. Hyojin's computer showed another report. The terraforming systems on 17 agricultural worlds were failing. These planets fed billions of aliens, but the complex environmental controls required constant adjustment by engineers who understood both alien biology and planetary ecology. Only humans had bothered to study both subjects thoroughly enough to keep the systems running. How long before there are food shortages? She asked. 2 months, maybe 3, Tae-sung replied. After that, some of the major population centers will start experiencing real hunger. Commander Subin Yoon appeared on the office communication screen. She was calling from a classified location somewhere in the outer territories. Behind her, Hyojin could see the construction of something massive and technological. Trade Minister Park, Subin said formally. I am reporting that the first phase of defensive preparations is complete. All border monitoring stations are operational. The early warning system is active. If any council species attempts to enter human space without permission, we will know about it long before they arrive. What about the special projects? Hyojin asked. The research teams are making excellent progress, Subin replied. Dr. Choi's theoretical work on quantum displacement is now being tested in practical applications. The new propulsion systems are performing beyond expectations, and the artificial intelligence protocols are ready for implementation. Sujin looked shocked. Artificial intelligence? But that technology is forbidden by the council. They said it was too dangerous for any species to develop. The council is no longer our concern, Hyojin said calmly. Humans are free to pursue any research we choose, and we choose to pursue technologies that will ensure our independence. The truth was that humans had been developing advanced technologies in secret for years. Every time the council had declared some field of research too dangerous or inappropriate for younger species, humans had simply moved that research to hidden facilities. While alien species had stagnated under council restrictions, humans had continued to grow and learn. There is something else you should know, Commander Subin said. Her expression was serious. Our intelligence networks report that some council species are already trying to contact us through unofficial channels. The gentle ones have sent 3 different messages asking if we would consider limited medical cooperation. The crystal, Singers want to negotiate cultural exchange agreements. Even some members of the Merchant Guild are inquiring about private trading contracts. What are we telling them? Hyojin asked. Nothing, Subin replied. For now, humanity is silent. Let them discover just how much they depended on us. Let them understand what independence really costs. As the communication ended, Hyojin looked at the reports covering her desk. Every single one told the same story. Without humans, the carefully balanced galactic civilization was falling apart. Species that had coexisted peacefully for centuries were now arguing over resources and territory. Technologies that had worked flawlessly for decades were breaking down without human maintenance. The great crystal dome of Nexus Prime Station sparkled with light from 100 different suns. Inside the massive chamber, representatives from 47 alien species sat in their assigned seats. The air hummed with translation devices working overtime to convert thousands of different languages into something everyone could understand. Ambassador Daeho Kim walked slowly to the center of the chamber. His black diplomatic uniform was simple compared to the colorful robes and strange armor worn by the alien delegates around him. Behind him, Captain Bo-Ram Lee stood quietly in her blue military dress uniform. She kept her hands clasped behind her back, but her eyes never stopped moving as she watched the alien faces staring at them. Elder Thys, a being made of living crystal that had existed for over 3,000 years, spoke first. Her voice rang like wind chimes in the vast chamber. The Galactic Council calls this emergency session to order. We are here to discuss the human problem. Daeho said nothing. He had been expecting this day for months. The signs had been obvious to anyone who cared to look. Trade agreements canceled, without explanation. Diplomatic meetings postponed again and again. Human ships being stopped and searched at every border checkpoint. Counselor Vextar rose from his seat. The tall reptilian being's scales were dark green with patches of angry red around his neck. When he spoke, his forked tongue flicked out between sharp teeth. Honored Elder, the human species has become a threat to galactic peace. In just 80 years, they have spread to over 200 worlds. They build cities where other species would only place mining stations. They terraform planets that should remain empty. They refuse to accept their proper place in the galactic order. A murmur ran through the chamber. Several alien species nodded. Their heads or made sounds of agreement. Daeho noticed that not all of them seemed happy about this meeting. The gentle ones, a race of blue-skinned healers, kept their eyes down. The crystal singers, who made beautiful art with their voices, looked uncomfortable in their seats. The humans, Vextar continued, spread their dangerous ideas wherever they go. They tell other species that they can govern themselves. They share technology that should remain with the advanced races. They encourage primitive species to reach beyond their natural limits. Captain Bo-Ram whispered something in Daeho's ear. He nodded slightly but did not turn around. Another alien stood up. This one was tall and thin with 4 arms and skin like polished metal. I am Trade Minister Kolwan of the Merchant Guild. The humans control 30% of all galactic trade routes. They have built the fastest ships and the most efficient cargo systems. But they refuse to share these advantages properly with the established trading houses. What do you mean by properly? Daeho asked quietly. Kolwan's 4 arms gestured dramatically. They sell their services to anyone who can pay. They do not respect the traditional trading partnerships that have existed for thousands of years. Small species that should depend on larger ones for protection and guidance now buy human ships and think they can trade as equals. More aliens spoke up. The hive mind representative complained that humans encouraged individual thinking among species that had always worked as groups. The war chief of the Ironclaw clan said humans made weapons too powerful for younger species to handle safely. The academic council representative said human schools taught dangerous subjects like creative thinking and questioning authority. Elder Thys raised one crystalline hand, and the chamber fell silent. Ambassador Daeho Kim, you have heard the concerns of the council. Humanity has 2 choices. First, you can accept council oversight of all human colonies and military forces. You will limit your expansion to worlds approved by this body. You will share your technology only with species we deem ready for advancement. You will stop spreading your political ideas to other cultures. The chamber was so quiet that Dai-Ho could hear the soft hum of the life support systems keeping 47 different species breathing the same air. And the second choice? He asked. Complete economic and military sanctions, Vextar said with obvious pleasure. No species will trade with humans. No human ship will be allowed to enter council space. Your colonies will be quarantined until you agree to our terms. Dai-Ho looked around the chamber slowly. His dark eyes met those of aliens who had been friends and trading partners for decades. Some looked away in shame. Others stared back with anger or fear. How long do we have to decide? He asked. You will give us your answer now, Elder Theiss said. This matter has been discussed long enough. Captain Boram stepped forward and handed Dai-Ho a small device. He looked at it for a moment, then put it in his pocket. Honorable Elder Theiss, respected council members, Dai-Ho began, I have listened carefully to your concerns. You believe humans are too unpredictable, too willing to change things, too quick to help others improve their lives. You want us to accept your guidance and follow rules made by species that fear progress more than they value freedom. We do not fear progress, Vextar hissed. We maintain order. Yes, Dai-Ho said calmly. You maintain order by making sure no one rises too high or dreams too big. You keep peace by ensuring that some species always serve others. You preserve stability by preventing change. He paused and looked directly at Elder Theiss. You have given us two choices. Submit or face isolation. But there is a third option. There is no third option, Elder Theiss said, her crystalline voice showing the first sign of uncertainty. There is now, Dai-Ho replied. Humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. We will have no further diplomatic relations with this body. We will not submit to your oversight, and we will not wait for your sanctions. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens jumped to their feet, shouting in languages the translation devices struggled to handle. Vextar's red patches spread across his entire body as he roared something that probably did not translate politely. Elder Theiss's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. You cannot simply leave. No species has ever withdrawn from the council. Every choice has a first time, Dai-Ho said. He reached into his pocket and activated the device Captain Boram had given him. Instantly, similar devices activated on human ships throughout the galaxy. What have you done? Vextar demanded. I have recalled every human ambassador, every human trade representative, and every human aid worker from council space, Dai-Ho explained. Our military forces are pulling back to human territory. Our merchant ships are canceling their delivery contracts. Our research teams are packing up their equipment. This is madness, Trade Minister Kolwan shouted. The economic disruption alone will cause chaos. Yes, Dai-Ho agreed. It probably will. Captain Boram spoke for the first time since entering the chamber. All human personnel will be out of council space within 72 hours. Any attempt to prevent their departure will be considered an act of war. You need us more than we need you, Vextar said, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. Dai-Ho smiled sadly. Perhaps. We will find out together. He turned and walked toward the exit. Captain Boram followed, her hand resting casually on her weapon. Behind them, the chamber filled with angry voices and the sound of frightened aliens trying to understand what had just happened. As they reached the door, Elder Theiss called out one last time. This is a mistake, Ambassador Kim. Humanity cannot survive alone. Dai-Ho paused at the threshold and looked back at the crystal being who had ruled the galaxy for longer than human civilization had existed. Elder Theiss, humanity has never been alone. We have always had each other. The question is whether you can survive without us. The great doors of the council chamber closed behind them with a sound like thunder. Admiral Sung-Ho Kang stood on the bridge of the HSS New Seoul, watching the tactical display show the positions of over 200 human ships scattered throughout the outer rim. Each ship was officially engaged in scientific research, or resource exploration, in unclaimed space. In reality, they formed the largest intelligence-gathering operation in galactic history. "Status report," he said to his operations officer. 18 months since departure, sir," Commander Young Mai reported. "Council space is experiencing critical failures across all major systems. Economic collapse is accelerating. Military conflicts have begun in 4 sectors. Show me the analysis." The main screen filled with data that painted a picture of galactic civilization falling apart. Dr. Young-Suk Lim had been working around the clock to document what was happening. Her report would have been funny if it were not so tragic. The hive mind species had split into 3 competing factions. For thousands of years, they had worked as a single consciousness, making decisions through a complex process of mental connection. But when disputes arose between different parts of the hive, humans had served as neutral mediators. Without human intervention, the different queens could not resolve their disagreements. Now they were fighting over territory and resources like separate species. The warrior cultures were even worse. The Ironclaw clan had declared war on the Merchant Guild over mining rights that humans used to manage through careful negotiation. The Stonehammer Brotherhood was attacking Crystal Singer colonies because they blamed the artist for economic problems. 3 different military alliances were forming, as species chose sides in conflicts that could have been prevented with proper diplomacy. "What about the agricultural worlds?" Admiral Kang asked. 15 major food-producing planets are experiencing crop failures, Dr. Young-Suk reported from her research station. "The terraforming systems are breaking down without human maintenance. 2 worlds have already been evacuated due to atmospheric collapse." Admiral Kang nodded grimly. Humans had been responsible for managing the complex environmental systems that allowed alien species to grow food on worlds that were not naturally suitable for their biology. Each planet required constant adjustment of temperature, humidity, atmospheric composition, and soil chemistry. It was delicate work that required understanding both alien physiology and planetary ecology. "Sir, we are receiving an emergency transmission from Counselor Rethvan," his communications officer announced. Admiral Kang considered ignoring the message. Orders from the human government were clear: no contact with council representatives. But Rethvan was different from most council members. The elderly alien had always treated humans with respect and had opposed many of the restrictions the council had placed on human activities. "Put him through," Admiral Kang decided. Rethvan's wrinkled face appeared on the screen. His species looked somewhat like humans, but with gray skin and large, intelligent eyes. He had served on the council for over 60 years and had seen the galaxy change from a collection of isolated worlds to a thriving interstellar civilization. "Admiral Kang," Rethvan said formally, "I am contacting you against direct orders from the council leadership. I hope you will hear what I have to say." "I am listening." "The galaxy is dying," Rethvan said bluntly. "Not quickly, but surely. Every day brings new failures, new conflicts, new disasters. Species that have lived in peace for centuries are now at war. Technologies that have worked for decades are breaking down. Billions of beings are suffering because we were too proud to admit our mistakes." Admiral Kang said nothing. The human policy was to let the council contact them first and make any proposals. "I have been studying the situation carefully," Rethvan continued. "I now understand something that I should have realized years ago. Humans were never just another species in the galactic community. You were the central nervous system that allowed all the other species to function together." "An interesting theory," Admiral Kang replied carefully. "It is not a theory, it is a fact. Humans mediated our disputes, maintained our technology, managed our trade routes, protected our shipping lanes, and provided innovations that allowed all of us to prosper. When the council forced you to leave, we cut out our own brain." The bridge was silent as everyone listened to the alien counselor's words. "What do you want from me, counselor?" Admiral Kang asked. "I want to arrange a meeting between reasonable representatives from both sides. Not the fanatics like Vextar who still believe humans will crawl back begging for forgiveness. Not the extremists who want to solve this with military force. I want to talk to people who understand that we need each other." Before Admiral Kang could respond, alarms began ringing throughout the ship. His tactical officer called out urgently, "Sir, We have multiple ships approaching our position. Configuration suggests Council military vessels. How many? Over 50 ships, sir. They are led by General Thrakkor's personal flagship. Admiral Kang felt his blood run cold. General Thrakkor commanded the Council's most aggressive military forces. He was exactly the kind of extremist that Counselor Rethvan had warned about. Counselor, Admiral Kang said to the alien on his screen, did you know about this military operation? Rethvan's face went pale. No. This was not authorized by the full Council. Thrakkor must be acting on his own. Sir, the communications officer reported, General Thrakkor is demanding that we surrender and return to Council space for trial. Admiral Kang cut the connection with Counselor Rethvan and turned to his tactical officer. Show me the enemy formation. The main screen displayed the approaching Council fleet. It was an impressive force by galactic standards. 50 warships, with advanced weapons and shields. Enough firepower to destroy a small planet. General Thrakkor clearly intended to drag humanity back to Council space by force. What the general did not know was that human military technology had advanced far, beyond anything the Council possessed. Sir, his sensor officer reported, I am detecting additional Council ships approaching from 3 other vectors. Total enemy strength is now over 200 vessels. They really want to make a statement, Admiral Kang muttered. Orders, sir? Admiral. Kang activated his personal communication device and sent a coded message to human fleet commanders throughout the galaxy. The response was immediate. On his tactical display, new contacts began appearing as human ships decloaked or dropped out of hyperspace. My God, his tactical officer whispered. Where there had been 1 human ship a moment before, there were now over 50. Sleek vessels with designs the Council had never seen. Ships that used technologies the Council had declared too dangerous for any species to develop. Open a channel to General Thrakkor, Admiral Kang ordered. The alien general's face appeared on screen. Thrakkor was a member of the Iron Claw species, with thick armor plating and scars from countless battles. He had built his reputation on never backing down from a fight. Human Admiral, Thrakkor growled, you will surrender immediately and return to face judgment for your crimes against galactic order. What crimes? Admiral Kang asked calmly. Abandoning your responsibilities, allowing chaos to spread throughout the galaxy, withholding aid from species that need your help. General, 6 months ago your Council told us we were dangerous and unpredictable. You demanded that we submit to your control or leave. We left. Now you blame us for the consequences of your choice. The Council made a mistake, Thrakkor admitted, grudgingly. But that does not give you the right to watch the galaxy burn while you hide in your ships. We are not hiding, Admiral Kang replied. We are observing, we are learning, and we are preparing. Preparing for what? For the day when the galaxy is ready to work with us as equals instead of trying to control us as subjects. Thrakkor's face darkened with anger. You will come with us now or we will take you by force. Admiral Kang looked at his tactical display. The Council fleet was impressive, but it was surrounded by human ships that used technology decades ahead of anything the aliens possessed. The humans had cloaking devices that rendered them invisible to Council sensors. They had weapons that could disable enemy ships without destroying them. Most importantly, they had artificial intelligence systems that could coordinate attacks faster than any organic crew. General Thrakkor, Admiral Kang said quietly, look at your tactical display very carefully, then ask yourself if this is really a fight you want to start. There was a long pause as Thrakkor realized what he was seeing. His fleet was outnumbered and outgunned by ships that had appeared from nowhere. Every Council vessel was now targeted by multiple human weapons. This is impossible, Thrakkor said finally. Where did all these ships come from? We have been busy during our time away from Council space, Admiral Kang replied. While you were arguing about how to control us, we were building the future. Dr. Youngsuk's voice came over the internal communication system. Admiral, I am receiving reports from across the galaxy. The Council fleet mobilization has triggered responses from every human observation post. We now have over 800 ships in position throughout Council space. Admiral Kang smiled. General, you came here to capture one human ship. Instead, you have discovered that humans have been watching every move the Council has made for the past 18 months. Engineer Nario wiped the sweat from her forehead as she watched another alien maintenance team struggle with a broken cargo loader. The machine had been working perfectly 3 days ago. Now it sat silent and useless in the middle of the Rexty system's main trading station. She was supposed to be a refugee from a destroyed human colony. At least that was what her identification papers said. The Council security forces had been happy to process her asylum request. After all, they needed to show that humans who cooperated with the new order would be treated well. What they did not know was that Nari was one of over 300 human engineers scattered throughout Council space. All of them had new identities. All of them had stories about barely escaping when their colonies were accidentally destroyed by equipment failures. And all of them were watching, listening, and reporting everything they saw. "Can you fix this machine?" asked Merchant Prince Kethvol, a fat Vrexti whose purple skin was turning darker with frustration. "My workers say it just stopped responding to commands." Nari walked slowly around the cargo loader, pretending to examine it carefully. In reality, she knew exactly what was wrong. The quantum processors that controlled the machine's artificial intelligence had degraded beyond repair. These processors needed to be recalibrated every 6 months, using techniques that only humans had developed. "The quantum matrix is corrupted," she said finally. "You need new processors." "Where can I get them?" Kethvol demanded. "You cannot," Nari replied honestly. "Only humans knew how to manufacture these components. Without them, you will need to replace this loader with a much simpler machine that can be operated manually." Kethvol's skin turned almost black with rage. "This is impossible. This machine has worked for 15 years. It cannot just stop working." Nari said nothing. Around the trading station, she could see dozens of similar scenes. Alien workers stood around broken equipment, arguing about what to do. Ships waited in docking bays because the automated systems that had guided them safely for decades were giving contradictory readings. Cargo containers sat unopened because the security scanners could not determine what was inside them. The Vrexti system had been one of the busiest trading centers in the galaxy. Merchant ships from hundreds of different species had come here to buy and sell everything from rare metals to exotic foods. The system's location made it a perfect meeting point between the inner worlds and the outer colonies. But that was when humans had been maintaining the infrastructure. Security Chief Mordak approached Nari with obvious suspicion. The tall, thin alien had silver skin and too many eyes for her comfort. "You seem to know a lot about this equipment for a refugee," he said. "I worked as an engineer before my colony was destroyed," Nari replied, sticking to her cover story. "Basic maintenance was part of my job." "And yet you cannot fix this machine?" "I can fix simple problems," she said, "but this requires replacement parts that no longer exist. When humans left, they took their manufacturing knowledge with them." Mordak's multiple eyes focused on her intently. "Why would humans destroy their own colony? The reports say there was a reactor accident." Nari forced herself to look sad. "We tried to keep the fusion reactors running without proper maintenance. The safety systems failed. I was lucky to escape in time." It was a believable story because similar accidents had been happening throughout Council space. Dozens of human installations had suffered critical failures shortly after the Council demanded that humans submit to oversight. Each failure had been carefully planned to look like the result of poor maintenance or operator error. The truth was that humans had quietly sabotaged their own equipment rather than let it fall into Council hands. Every fusion reactor, every quantum computer, every piece of advanced technology had been carefully destroyed before humans evacuated. The Council had inherited empty buildings and broken machines. Captain Jin Wuhan's ship drifted silently in the outer edge of the Vrexti system. His vessel looked like a standard asteroid mining platform, but appearances were deceiving. Hidden beneath its rough exterior were sensor arrays more advanced than anything the Council possessed. "Status report," he said quietly to his communications officer. Pirate activity has increased by 400% in this sector, Lieutenant Wu Jin replied. 3 merchant convoys were attacked last week. The local defense forces are taking an average of 18 hours to respond to distress calls. How long did human patrols take to respond? 37 minutes, Wu Jin said. And that was only because we maintained early warning sensors throughout the system. Jinwu nodded grimly. The council had accused humans of being aggressive, but humans had actually been the galaxy's police force. Human patrol ships had kept the trade routes safe from pirates, smugglers, and raiders. Human intelligence networks had prevented wars before they started. Human diplomats had resolved disputes that could have led to system-wide conflicts. Without humans, the galaxy was becoming a much more dangerous place. Sir, we are receiving a priority transmission from the monitoring station on Kepler 7, his communications officer announced. Jin Wu activated the secure channel. Commander Li Sang-min's face appeared on the screen, his expression serious. Jin Wu, we have a problem, Sang-min said. The crystalline elders are requesting emergency assistance. Their primary data core is failing. How bad is it? Complete cascade failure. They are losing thousands of years of accumulated knowledge. Their backup systems are corrupting faster than they can transfer data. Jinwu felt a cold sensation in his stomach. The crystalline elders were the oldest and wisest species in the galaxy. Their data cores contained the history of dozens of civilizations, scientific discoveries that had taken millennia to develop, and cultural treasures that could never be replaced. What do they want from us? He asked. Technical assistance. They are willing to pay any price for human engineers to help save their archives. And our orders? No contact with Council species except in life-threatening emergencies, Sang-min replied. But Admiral Sung Ho Kang is considering making an exception. This knowledge belongs to the entire galaxy, not just to the elders. Jin Wu understood the dilemma. Humans had been the only species that learned to work with both organic and quantum computing systems. The crystalline elders had built their data cores using technology that combined living crystal matrices with quantum processors. It was beautiful, elegant, and completely incomprehensible to any species except humans. What about the other species? Jin Wu asked. Are they offering help? The Council is pretending the problem does not exist, Sang-min said bitterly. Vextar actually said that the elders should have prepared better for human departure. Trade. Minister Kulwan suggested that the elders sell their stored knowledge to pay for repairs. Idiots, Jinwu muttered. They do not understand what they are about to lose. Back on the trading station, Nari watched as another piece of critical equipment failed. This time it was the atmospheric recycling system that kept the air breathable. For the dozens of different species that lived and worked here, emergency alarms were ringing throughout the station. How long do we have? Merchant Prince Kethval asked frantically. Maybe 6 hours before the air becomes toxic, the station's chief engineer replied. His species required a very specific mixture of gases to survive, and the recycling system had been carefully balanced to accommodate everyone. Can we evacuate? Where would we go? Every ship in the system depends on this station for supplies and maintenance. If we abandon it, the entire trade network collapses. Nari knew that she could fix the atmospheric system. It would take her about 2 hours, and she had the necessary tools hidden in her quarters. But her orders were clear. Observe and report, but do not interfere unless human lives were at stake. She watched as alien engineers ran frantically from one control panel to another, trying desperately to understand systems that humans had designed and maintained for decades. They pushed buttons randomly, hoping that something would work. They argued about theories that had no basis in reality. They wasted precious time trying to contact experts who did not exist anymore. This is hopeless, one of the Rexty engineers finally admitted. We need human help. Humans are gone, Kethval snapped. We must solve this ourselves. With what knowledge? The engineer demanded. We never learned how these systems work. We just used them and assumed they would keep working forever. Nari stepped forward carefully. I might be able to help, she said. I worked with atmospheric systems on my colony. Every alien in the Room turned to look at her. She could see desperation in their eyes, but also suspicion. They needed her help, but they were afraid to trust a human. "What do you need?" Kethval asked finally. "Access to the main control room in 6 hours without interruption," Nari replied. 6 hours? We only have 6 hours of safe air left. Then you had better decide quickly, she said calmly. As the aliens argued among themselves, Nari activated a small communication device hidden in her clothing. It sent a brief message to Captain Jin Wuhan's ship. "Atmospheric emergency on Frextu Station. Preparing to intervene." The response came back immediately. "Understood. Document everything." Nari knew that this moment would be recorded and studied by human leadership.